On today's show, Frances McDormand rallies the troop. Kobe has more Oscars than Shaq, and we really hope the fish man didn't get hit by a jet ski while celebrating his Oscar last night. All that and more right now. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a new week of Movie Talk, where we're going to be recapping everything that went down last night at the Oscars' 90th birthday. My name is Mark. I am joined by Kristian Harloff, Jon Schnepp, and Perri Nemiroff. Let's get right to it with The Shape of Water, bringing home some gold. Not only did it win Best Picture of 2018, or at least 2017, in 2018, Guillermo del Toro also took home his very first Best Director win. Kristian, a lot of stuff going the right way for The Shape of Water. How do you feel about the fish guy?
I said this to Perri right before we went on air. I think that these were the easiest Oscars of all time to predict. They were the most predictable Oscars. Shape of Water was supposed to win it. It did. As far as an overall achievement, and it's funny because I think Del Toro, for me, when he works in this playhouse, this is where he shines, obviously. It's sometimes that I feel like, when he goes a little bit too big, Pacific Rim was fine. I know Dennis is probably cursing me, but it's more this kind of detail when he's really able to do his thing that he shines, and he has. And plus the fact he's just one of the most genuine, nice people that you've ever met. I've had the pleasure now a few different times with Perri to meet him, and you're in awe of him, of how much he really cares. So as far as them winning, I think they won the awards they were supposed to win and that they should have won. I could have gone back and forth with Best Picture. I really liked Shape of Water. I just didn't like it as much as Lady Bird. I didn't like it as much as Dunkirk, but really good movie, and good on Del Toro for winning it.
Yeah, The Shape of Water winning Best Picture, I wanted to ask you, because you weren't watching it here with us last night at the studio, you were watching it from the comfort of your own home with the ladies around you. Did you get a little nervous at all? Because I started to get nervous, because there's 9 Best Pictures that they have to rattle off before they give out the winner, and I wasn't just nervous because it was Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway once again reading the card. It was simply because I saw 3 billboards, and I'm like, I like the movie fine. I don't want it to win. I got a little nervous.
Nah, I wasn't nervous, but I think that also it also the predictability comes into the other award shows that have taken place already.
Where 3 billboards started with a head of steam, and then it tailed off a little bit.
Shape of Water just kept coming, and a lot of the members from those different award shows vote in the Academy too. So you're watching it, and you're like, okay, this is pretty much a sure thing. I thought. There's been the previous Oscars I've been watching and saying, I don't know, this could go somewhere else. I kept saying it. My wife was like, "Oh, you're good at this." I'm like, "No, I'm not good at this. This is easy this year."
Yeah, Perri, Schnepp, we talk about movies winning the Best Picture Oscar, and we look at them sometimes as being a time capsule of when they came out, of when the year they were released. And I think that Shape of Water does a great job of that, because you had a year in 2017 in Hollywood where a lot of people who were feeling like they were being marginalized, whose voices weren't being heard, suddenly rose up and as a collective unit said, "We're not going to take this anymore." You watch a movie like Shape of Water, and it's a lot of people from different backgrounds saying, "We're tired of this. The man is holding us down. We're going to help this fish guy. We're going to fall in love with whoever we want to fall in love with." There's a mute person, there's a black person, there's a gay person, there's a fish person. There's all these different sorts of people coming together for one common goal. And then you also have the fact that Guillermo del Toro directed. He's a Hispanic man who won Best Director. I think Shape of Water is a great movie for the time that it was made. Do you think, Perri, it's going to stand the test of time as one of the best pictures that we've had this year, this decade, this lifetime?
It's tough to say for sure, but given how much I loved Shape of Water in 2017, I would be shocked if this lost any of its value or just watchability for me, especially because there's like a dreamlike quality to it, and every element of it, his direction, the production design, the creature effects, the performances, there's nothing in that movie that I think could ever come across as feeling, 1, dated, or 2, less meaningful to me, no matter how everything progresses in real life, in the film industry, on the big screen. I really do think that this is one of the ones that are going to stand the test of time. But looking back on this Oscars, I don't think I'm necessarily going to look back and be like, oh, yeah, that was the year that Shape of Water won Best Picture. It's going to be a collective. Shape of Water won Best Picture. Coco won Best Animated Feature. Jordan Peele won one of the screenwriting awards. Call Me by Your Name was up there. There's so many different things to celebrate this Oscar season that I think I'm going to be looking back at it as a collective success for everybody, and that's really exciting to me.
I think the only thing with Shape of Water, it's not even a matter of the test of time. It's just it's not as much of a universal movie as the other movies were, as far as like. I mean, I'm telling you, when you look at the people, like my mother-in-law, my wife, my dad, my brothers, for the people that I talked to, had no interest in seeing it. My mother-in-law did see it, had no idea what the hell was going on.
Really? They don't think it seems like it's a movie that you
It's not
walk
for
into,
everybody.
like you walk in, when I was a kid, you go to Video Update, right? Because we didn't have a Blockbuster. So you go into Video Update and you look at all the different genres. You look at horror, family, drama, action, comedy. It has everything in there. So why can't we convince people to watch this movie?
Because, first of all, we'll call it what it is. Fish or fish sex is weird.
It's a lady having sex with a fish god.
But
that's like one part of the movie.
Well, not just
It's a
that,
fantasy.
but when you see it, you just right away not everybody like us is into like fantasy movies and it is a really good movie. I like the movie a lot. What I'm saying is, it's not for every audience. It really is. It's a fairy tale. But not everyone's going to say that's a movie I have to see. You know, I didn't like this type of genre before, and now you won me over. It's not going to happen because, again. Even hearing my mother-in-law last night, I can't believe that's the one that won.
Right. That's the thing. I mean, I think Universal is screaming into a pillow right now for letting Guillermo go. I mean, he could have been in charge of all these monster movies. They were like, see ya, here's an Oscar. I'm so happy that Guillermo won, as well as Jordan Peele. I will always remember this year of Oscars, because it's the year that horror films kind of won for screenplay, best picture, best director. And like you're absolutely right. My mom kept calling it Getting Out. She was like, I don't understand it. She's like, there's certain films that are made for, you know, people who love. Get Out is a horror film. There's no way you can say it's not a horror film. It also has a lot of social relevance. There's a lot of messages in there, but it's basically a horror movie. So is Shape of Water. It's a horror fantasy. I mean, it's a love story, but it's also a horror fantasy.
It's one of the
And
reasons
brutal,
why
too.
I
It's
think, but that's why I think Shape of Water is transcendent and can be appealing to multiple fan bases, is because a movie like Get Out, it's primarily a horror movie. There might be a little bit of satire and comedy in there. It's a horror movie. Three Billboards is a drama with some dark comedy in there as well. But The Shape of Water, I think you can sell to anybody. And your mother-in-law, first of all, she needs to become on staff here because she gets referenced way too often in the show, but
she
to not
is.
get some sort of paycheck.
No, but again, for my wife, I'll give my wife as a better example. Like last night, she said, I can tell that's probably a really good film. I have no interest in seeing it.
Well, it's a movie. You can't really say that about any movie, that this particular movie is going to be for everybody. But when you look at that preferential ballot system and you compare, let's say, A Shape of Water to Three Billboards to Get Out, Shape of Water no doubt had the edge with that voting system. And I'm not saying that's the only reason why it won or why it should have won. I think it has earned that award all on its own, but it definitely had the edge because of all those movies, or at least of the group of frontrunners at least, it was the most widely likable movie.
Yeah, you're talking about the Academy, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm talking about widespread
Right.
audience. I don't mean the people who are in the
average,
industry.
normal movie-going audience.
The industry people, of course. That's what they watch movies
most
for.
of
Like
these
us, but I'm talking about like regular moviegoers.
But they're going to see all the big blockbusters, which hardly any of those were actually referenced. I mean, these are all movies that are of note. And I felt like this year specifically, so many films like Call Me by Your Name, like so many films, Three Billboards, they're so different. And yet all of them were fantastic. And that's, to me, what would also stand out. I was like, wow, it was really tough for myself to make decisions like, well, that movie should win Best Editing or that movie, because they were all so good on their different levels.
Today, The Shape of Water domestically has grossed $57 million in a number of weeks of release. Jon Schnepp, I wanted to ask you, as a director, did Guillermo del Toro win Best Director this year because his movie was the best, or is it because he had the highest mountain to climb to pull this achievement off?
I think it's because his movie was the best. I mean, every director, every single person involved has mountains to climb. I don't look at it like that, like, you know, except for Gary Oldman. I feel like, you know, I will say there's some exceptions where it's like I've seen him perform better in other films than The Darkest Hour.
Are you going to bring up Zorg again?
I'm going to bring up Zorg. I'm just saying, I use that as a joke, but I just think overall he deserves the body of work Oscar. But I thought Timothée Chalamet, I mean, that performance was unbelievable and transcendent, and he probably didn't get the recognition for that because he's so young. I mean, look, he got an Oscar nomination. That's enough, some people will say. But I think Guillermo, above and beyond, deserved it. I mean, he's an incredible director, and he brings out emotions, and he thinks about the design sensibility. He'll sketch drawings. He is the ultimate director, I would
agree
say.
with that 100%. I think that when you look at that movie, it doesn't matter how widespread audience you see, what the director himself can do, and how he works with his talent, and how he presents, and the vision that comes from his head, and how he transfers that on screen, and every little detail that goes into it. That is a master at work.
He cares about every single
little detail, everything about it. He was the front runner. He should have won. That was a clear shot.
And how he brings everything together so seamlessly. We were talking about it when it won production design last night too. The production design all on its own is incredible, but when you put those sets with the costume color choices and how well it pops, and then you put Desplat's score to it, and just the way he so clearly understands his two main characters especially, and how he brings them together, because I think this would have been a much more difficult movie to digest had it been in the hands of another director, and had it had different lead actors in it, because what they were able to accomplish with that relationship, because really going into it, I'm like, all right, you're gonna have some convincing to do to get me to believe that this relationship is legit. And especially when it goes into its dream sequence, that is a tough thing to really buy into, and it just moved me to tears. That it's almost like it's got this zany but also really touching and believable quality to it, and the fact that they could pull something like that off just speaks to how
stories were very personal to the artist creating them, like Greta Gerwig was for Lady Bird or Jordan Peele was for Get Out. But if you gave their material to another director, I think you still would have had an Oscar-worthy movie. It's such a crapshoot. With giving Guillermo del Toro's story to anybody else, I think that I would trust him the most making Shape of Water. So now the question is, where should Del Toro go from here? Does he continue to make movies like this, or does he go back into the big budget world where he's making robot and monster movies again? He's got Nightmare Alley on his IMDb right now, which is a remake of a 1947 movie. Sounds like it could be another thing in his wheelhouse like Shape of Water was. Now.
Well, yeah, he wrote that with Kim Morgan, who was sitting right next to him at the Oscars. So it's like, I can't wait to see the remake of Nightmare Alley, all you film noir fans. So, yeah, I think I'd like to see him stay somewhere in the middle. I think Shape of Water was like under 20 million, and it's such an amazing film. It's like you get more freedom when you have less budget to deal with, but 20 million is a lot of money. So I'd love him to stay in the $40 million range and make like 2 movies a year. I'm greedy, but I'd like to, for him to do whatever he wants. I'd like the door to be open.
Perry, it looked like Crimson Peak it just got so bloated and so overhyped as one movie, and that was never the movie that Del Toro intended to make. He clearly made what he wanted to with Shape of Water. Do you like him going down that route, or like Schnepp had postulated before, what if he is handed the keys to something like the Universal, like the Dark Universe? Would that be something you want to see?
If he says yes to something, I'm going to get behind that decision, because I've been thinking about this a lot since he won last night, because he should probably have any opportunity he wants right now, whether he is going to make another original film with potential Oscar prestige and potential, or he goes to something bigger, like a Universal Monster cinematic universe, or something along the lines of a Pacific Rim. But what it comes down to, and what has made the large majority of his movies so special to me, is that you could see that he cares about what he's doing. So if he decides that he cares about his next project, whether it is a gigantic blockbuster or an itty-bitty independent movie about something as weird and out there as a mute woman falling in love with a fish man, I don't think I care at this point, as long as he's passionate about what he's doing. And I don't see someone like him signing on for something that he doesn't care so deeply about.
Kristian, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to make you the head of a studio. Congratulations. You're interviewing Guillermo del Toro about his next project. Does his Oscar win change how much of a budget you would appropriate to his project?
It would. What I would do as a studio head, I would challenge him. I would challenge him to see if he could make a big movie for $80 to $100 million, because exactly what you were saying before with his attention to detail is the reason why his movies balloon to 200 million, 220, or whatever it is, and they don't. I mean, you can tell him they don't need to, but he will tell you, of course they need to, because this is what I need it to be. It's not like he's just wasting money. He sees it in his head, and that's why he needs these things to be as big as he is. I would just like to challenge him to go $60 to $100 million to make a movie like that and see exactly what he can do, whether it's, because I also think that's a problem with big budget movies altogether. Everything's $200 million now, everything's $250, and it's like we've been talking about it forever with making another Terminator, making another Terminator $60 to $80 million, because back in the day, $60 to $80 million was a lot of money.
It's insane
It's
money.
insane amount.
I say I'll challenge you, shave off the 100, just keep it at 60.
Well,
That's the cap.
he's also the kind of person that if a studio says, no, you can't do that, and he believes that that money is well worth spending, he will pay that money. I think that's completely different than a studio being like, $200 million, have at it. If he's the reason those budgets are going up and he's putting his own money behind an idea that he believes in, all the power to him.
Yeah, see, I'm not on that side. I would rather see him, because I think by putting in more money and doing it, I don't think you need to do it. I think that
putting a cap on it is
scale it down, because I'd like to see him do a movie, not necessarily like Deadpool, but what Deadpool did. The way Deadpool was able to make a big movie like that with his stamp on it, with his writing in it, for like 60 or 80 million, he would do something incredible. And the answer is, what would I want to see him do next? I'm on the same page with Perri. I'd like to see whatever he wants to do next, because he's earned that. But I also think that what he could do is he could make another one of these big, huge movies. And even if it does balloon to like 200-300 and it doesn't do well, guess what? His next movie, he can do another movie like this, and he's right back on top. That's the power and that's the talent that he has.
Sally Hawkins was nominated for Best Actress for The Shape of Water. However, she did lose to Frances McDormand, who was the frontrunner for 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. McDormand won and gave a rousing speech. It was one of the highlights of the Oscar evening, Perri, at least it was for me. How did you feel about her call to arms for all of the women in the audience to stand up and be recognized?
I felt very strongly about that. And even though I was rooting for Sally Hawkins, obviously Frances McDormand delivers a great performance in 3 Billboards. And then what she chose to do with her time on that stage really meant something, especially because of the last 2 words, because not many people know what inclusion rider means, but that is something that can really make a difference. And the fact that especially A-list stars like a Frances McDormand has the opportunity to make that kind of demand in a contract, that a certain percentage of your extras, of your speaking roles, of your crew can be from all different backgrounds and ethnicities. They have the power to do that, and that is something that they can implement right now. If someone like Frances McDormand signs on for a film and makes that demand, there's a good chance that that demand will wind up in her contract and will be recognized. And that is a way for everybody who got up on that stage and said something to back some of these movements to actually make a difference that we could see now.
Yeah, Kristian, it's really tough for somebody winning an award as late in the evening as Frances McDormand did to still make a social impact, because everybody was saying their piece all night long, and that's including the show's host, Jimmy Kimmel. But she gets up there. My favorite part of her speech was actually when she referenced the fact that you're going to be hobnobbing at these parties afterwards. You're going to be giving out business cards. Say, oh, yeah, we should have a meeting. She's like, I don't want to do this at the party. I want to do this in 2 days when everybody's sober, when everybody's actually focused on making their next project. I think it was Jon Stewart who referenced that he was doing the awards circuit a couple years ago, and he said that that's all that the award shows are, is everybody setting up meetings, and then these meetings never actually come to fruition. So she was saying, we want meetings that are actually going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, well, as far as the first part of your question, was it hard for her? No, because that's the kind of presence that it didn't matter what time you put her on. You could put her on at 4 in the morning. She would have done the same thing.
That's right.
She was ready. She's intense.
Yeah.
I mean, she's super intense, and she was ready for it. And she would never say this, but she knew she was going to win. And the fact that we knew she was going to win because of all the things that has been set up. I like Sally as well, but I think that Frances McDormand deserved to win it. I mean, she brought a lot of her personality into that role, but it was the way that she just goes for it. And and I believe it was funny though too, because there's parts of it that I believe Frances McDormand could do a lot of what her character did in that movie if that same situation was on her.
And she's got those layers too, where she can get really deep and emotional, and she can have a conversation with a CGI deer.
Well, you saw the emotion with Sam Rockwell. You saw it when he won, how she was able to she locks in, and she was there for her crew, and she's there. And last night she was there for everyone, and that's what she knew going into it. She had, I don't want to say an agenda, but she had a goal. She had a goal that was what she wanted to accomplish when she won, and I believe she accomplished that goal because, like you said, a lot of people were like, "What is she talking about with this rider?" And now everyone's talking about it because she just threw it out there. She didn't explain what it was. She didn't have to explain what it was. She threw it out there, and then a hashtag happened. Everybody started talking about it. We're talking about it, and that's how you make an impact. She did it well.
She explained it in her post-win interview too.
Right.
So it was just the perfect succession of things where it was the final 2 words. You get a whole bunch, because if you go out there and
But
you
still
Google,
didn't get the jet ski though.
Yeah, well,
Right.
You win some, you lose some.
Right.
You Google inclusion rider now, and there are so many things that come up with people explaining it from other individuals who have brought similar ideas up in the past, and then you get that little clip of her behind the scenes after she wins the award, flat out explaining what it is and why it's important. It's true. She is on nonstop. She walked into this thing prepared, as you should if you have the opportunity to take the stage like this and actually say something important and make a difference. So good on her for doing it at the ceremony and then after too, because that interview after is great.
Right, and this is a grand finale for her because I think that she could have done this same speech at another award show, but she let it build up. She knew it. She knew she was going to win, and she knew that she was.
She actually held back from some other speeches, acceptance speeches that she gave. I mean, she said that she doesn't like to get all that political. She keeps her politics close to her vest. Obviously, in this case, this was something very important to her, Schnepp, and I think it resonated very well.
Well, I mean, I think the overall night kind of resonated in that same way. So she probably felt a lot more comfortable about saying exactly what she wanted to say because it was the perfect time and the perfect place to say it. I love Frances McDormand, and she's such a great actress. Going from Fargo to this movie, just the complete and total difference in character. Yet that she's that's why she won. I mean, I don't think it's like it adds up. Like how many times has she been nominated? 5 times. It's like. It's like she finally won.
She won twice.
Twice.
Yeah,
Oh, she's already won once.
She won for Fargo.
For Fargo, duh. All right. Well, for some reason, I'm like equating her to Gary Oldman all of a sudden.
There was someone else that won for Deakins. Deakins won for the first time.
So, anyway, Frances McDormand, her speech was great. Inclusion writers, they should be in every single contract now. That's
I think as far back as Almost Famous, you look at her, and she's got such great motherly instincts on camera, and that now translates to just her being the den mother of Hollywood and taking care of everybody in this community. It was a really cool thing to see. Another non-surprise was Gary Oldman winning the Best Actor award for his performance as Winston Churchill in The Darkest Hour. Kristian, I know it was one of your favorite movies of the year, and I know you love doing the impression. I'm going to give you the platform to do it one more time.
No, I don't want to do the impression, but what I want to do is
It's too early? Did you not eat yet?
No. Hey, I want to combat Mr. Schnepp just a little bit, because I obviously respect your opinion very much so because I agree that Timothée Chalamet was amazing in that role and put out a performance that I think against anybody else except Oldman and that might have had a chance to win it. I think that very similar to what Frances McDormand did, so I'm kind of going against my argument a little bit. What Timothée Chalamet did is he brought a lot of the character of Ilio was different. There's no doubt about it, but he put a lot of his personality in there. Oldman had to channel Churchill, and when you go back and you look, and it wasn't an impression, he became the man, and a lot of it became to the amazing, special effects, makeup that deservedly so won last night, and that allowed him to transform. But when you watch footage of Churchill, when you read about Churchill, that was not Gary Oldman, and that was Winston Churchill, and the powerful performance that he's able to take you through. And I had learned a lot about Churchill before. I learned so much more through Gary Oldman's interpretation. I don't disagree with the notion that he got this because of all the stuff that he'd done before, and I'm sure that helped people vote. But when you watch that movie, that is a brilliant performance. It is a master, and I'm referencing my entire family in this thing. But my father-in-law was a professor of theater at USC for over 30 years, and I always look to his guidance when it comes to performances and stuff because he's very critical. He was in awe of Gary Oldman. He was in awe of him, watching him the entire time. He's like, and he just would break down his performance and the way he did it. And it's one of the best performances I've seen in a very long time, and he deserved it.
Yeah, it was cool. Right before they went in for the ceremony on the red carpet, I think it was your boy Strahan, or one of the other hosts was interviewing Oldman. They're like, can you see any of yourself when you watch that movie? And he's like, yeah, there's little bits and pieces he can see, but I think it's right up there with his best work, Schnepp. I still, I fell in love with him as Dracula, so that's the first thing I always think of, but I think that this was a deserved win. Taking away his body of work, him versus Chalamet, was a close call, but I think Oldman deserved it.
Sid Vicious, baby. You know what? I mean, look, I might also, there's you can't help it sometimes, like the real person sometimes takes it over from whatever character they're playing. And a lot of his comments about Golden Globes, and then he wins and he's sucking on a Golden Globe. It's like, sort of like, I think like, some of the stuff, like when I see the people for who they really are, sometimes that affects how I see them in movies. So that's probably why I have that thing against him, is because I saw him being a little like, saying all this crazy mad stuff against these fake award shows, but then you win one and you're all happy to go. So look,
Right.
the Oscars are not a fake awards show. So
The hypocrisy was the thing. That
yeah,
got
the
it.
hypocrisy is really what gets me.
Got it.
So
That's
but
fair. That's
look,
fair.
I'll watch it again. I'll give it another shot.
Well, Perri, of all the best actor nominees, I don't think anybody had a better run this entire award season than Timothée Chalamet. And so I think it's not a bad consolation prize that he's now the star that he is. But Oldman deservedly winning the statue in your eyes?
Yeah, I think so. I was rooting for Timothée Chalamet just because of how much I adore that movie, and I think he's fantastic in it and well deserving of the nomination. And I will say that when they were playing Mysteries of Love, I was kind of hoping that they would cut to him and just leave the camera on him and let him cry or something.
Oh, no.
But when I'm looking at Gary Oldman, and especially when I take everything out of the picture, just look at his performance in this movie. It's one of those performances where his work as the lead actor, and I'm not saying that other elements of the movie aren't good, his performance in that movie elevates everything around him. And I think that was one of the most astonishing things about that movie to me. And really, that is kind of what paved the way to where he is right now in my eyes. And, he's been winning every single thing back to back to back. This moment was going to come. And I do think that, no matter what happened in the past and what he has said in other interviews, what he has done this award season and just how appreciative he has come across, it did touch me. And it's fun seeing that behind the scenes video of him dancing, and one of the cool things that we got that now means a little something more is that little image that he signed, of a photo of him on set that his wife took. And there's just something like really moving and also somewhat haunting about that image. I have it sitting on my desk now at home, and I kind of like looking at it and how much it says to me about his work in that role and also just the movie itself.
And I think his sign off to his mom was very warming. Sort of like
99 years young.
99 years old.
Yeah,
It's
put on a
amazing.
kettle or pop open some Pol Roger, which was Winston Churchill's favorite champagne. Let's move on to Best Supporting Actor and Actress. We'll kind of combine them into one, but nonetheless celebrate both Allison Janney winning and Sam Rockwell. Hey, they were both in the way back, and they were both great in it. So, Chris, you got Allison Janney winning. You have Sam Rockwell winning. Which performance do you think surprised you, or maybe which win surprised you?
Now, again, I hate to be a broken record, but neither one surprised me. I thought they.
Which one surprised your mother-in-law the most?
I don't know. Luckily enough, she wasn't watching it with us.
Oh boy!
I say that only because
Run that back.
Well, it's just certain things that she says sometimes. Like she'll do this thing, drives me crazy. That's not the one that deserved to win. Have you seen it? No. It drives me crazy. So I didn't want to deal with that last night. So that's why I say that. As far as the wins, they both deserve to win. And Sam Rockwell, what was so brilliant about Sam Rockwell's performance in that movie was what he's able to do in that movie. And it's kind of a minor spoiler, so
say it.
I'll just maneuver it. I'll maneuver it as best I can. But he takes the character from one level and he's able to shift him into a different level that is not easy to do. It is not easy to do because you have to have a certain emotion towards that character for a majority of the movie. And then he, as a performer, has to make you say, no, now I want you to feel like this. And you, as an audience member, has to, most times, like, I'm not going to feel like that.
Scene on the porch with the beers is where that shift happened.
Right. And because when you're watching, because the reason why is because it was a human performance. And he was playing a human being that you believed because that's what humans do. Sometimes, and there's no wrong to it, we watch characters that are that's what they do. It's good all the way through. It's bad all the way through. That's what they do. And that's what we love about movies sometimes. But when it comes to performances like this, it's the inner workings. It's the weaving of what makes the character. And Sam Rockwell did that really. I mean, I'm not going to say better than Gary Oldman, but amazing. Now, as far as Allison Janney goes, she was a character that's pretty much the same the whole way through because that's what the character is. That's who the person was as a human. She was despicable, but she played that so well. You believed it.
And when that character was presented with different events, to see her still maintain that when any other normal human being would have to break at some point.
Right? Yes, and that's very similar to what the point I'm making with Sam Rockwell's character because when it came to the character she was playing, the decisions were real. And it was like you were not going to shift because that's who that person is as a human. The only thing, though, I was secretly rooting for Laurie Metcalf. I really was. I was rooting for her because I thought that she was so good in that movie. And when you saw a little bit of that trailer, when they showed it last night of Lady Bird, it really shows you how important she is to that film.
Oh, yeah.
Not that Jenny is not. She's very important in the movie, but I'm okay with Allison Jenny because I love her. I'm okay with her winning. Could have been okay with Metcalf, but yeah, this is all deserved stuff.
Yeah, Perri, I know that we got to share our thoughts on a lot of this last night when we were watching and doing our live stream here at the Oscars, but you want to quickly recap your feelings about the Best Supporting Awards?
Yeah, this obviously went the exact way that I thought it would, and I'm very happy for both of them for winning because, like I said last night, I think there is more to Allison Janney's role in I, Tonya than people give her credit for because she isn't some cartoonish evil mother. The way she's able to manipulate your expectations all the way through, that is what makes many scenes in the latter half of the movie very, very powerful and engaging too. The fact that you're watching her and you're watching Margot Robbie and trying to figure out how exactly she's trying to manipulate this situation. So I do think she deserved it. But, you know, like Kristian said, when you're thinking about Laurie Metcalf, and especially, I think it was because I had rewatched I, Tonya more recently than I had Lady Bird. So when they played that clip last night of Lady Bird and you saw their interaction, it's just, there is something about her performance as a mother, and especially where that movie goes to the end, that it's hopeful, but it rips my heart out at the same time. Not that I have the exact same relationship with my mother, but there are so many universal truths to how they behave, and I can apply what they went through to maybe one instance that I went through with my mother, and to force me to think about how my mom might have reacted to me saying something. That's part of the reason why Lady Bird in particular struck me. And it is unfortunate that Lady Bird didn't walk away with any wins last night because I think it deserved them. But with Sam Rockwell, I'll just say exactly what Kristian said. The reason why I walked out of 3 Billboards saying, Sam Rockwell has this, he deserves it, is because of that incredible arc and that journey that character goes through. The only person that I wouldn't have minded seeing steal the award from him is Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, Schnepp, I don't feel bad for Perri that she can relate more to the mother character in Lady Bird than she can in I, Tonya. I think that's actually a good thing about the Nemiroff family.
Definitely, I think most people on planet Earth would be like, hey, that's like my mom. Like Holly was like, a whole bunch of different people relate more with Lady Bird. Thank God nobody really relates with the Allison Janney character. But when Allison first came here many years ago, I got to hang out with her and party with her a little bit. She's an incredible super talent. And to see her rise and finally get what's been coming to her all these years is fantastic. Allison Janney, I was so happy that she won. It was so close, though. I mean, either one of them who would have won, they both deserve this kind of praise for being the moms. But Allison Janney's evil mom is like the one that's the one to kind of beat and that's why she won. I thought the expectations through I, Tonya while you're watching it, the whole time you're like, eventually she's going to warm up. Eventually, and spoilers, you could read about this. This happened in real life. But, I, Tonya, that's the movie that she won for everybody in the film, I feel.
Kristian, I wanted to talk to you about the overall ceremony real quick. Just like, what else stood out to you, whether it was another award that won or was it the actual, what was it a bit? I know you're a big fan of nonsense and comedy skits. What spoke to you about that element of the award show?
Jimmy Kimmel to me is a super talent. He is from just the way that he's very relatable, the way that he does things a bit different. He's one of my favorite kind of personalities out there right now. He's not afraid to be outspoken sometimes on things that he believes in, but he also knows how to put on a show. He can crack a joke. Like the stuff he was doing, Christopher Plummer was hysterical. It was really funny. Like he kept throwing those jokes, and even Christopher Plummer was like kind of laughing at me because it was Jimmy Kimmel doing it. It wasn't mean-spirited. It was kind of cracking jokes. The Alexander Hamilton thing was great, and Plummer was in on it. And then, the bit where they kind of went over and surprised all the fans.
That was fantastic.
And he did that last year in a different way, and he's probably going to do it again if he does it. He's becoming, there's 2 years in a row. He's becoming a guy that he can become the guy.
Yeah, I said last night he might be grabbing the proverbial torch from Billy
right?
Crystal, who grabbed it from Carson
and I hope
or
he
Bob
does.
Hope. Yeah,
I hope he does because I think the jet ski bit, like all that stuff, because he took what he does and he implemented it into the show. That's what a good host does. Like a comedian will hit you with the jokes, and like when Chris Rock did his thing, it was doing stand up throughout it. Whether you liked it or not, a good host brings what they do into it, and that's what Jimmy Kimmel was able to do. The overall show, he said it. He told you up top, there's nothing I can do about it. This show is going to be long. These shows are long. And basically, he was saying, they're too long, but there's nothing. I'm going to try my best to wrap this thing up, but there's only so much I can do. It was like 3 hours and 40 minutes.
He
it was
insane. He had to quiet that one producer who's like, we know you love Guillermo.
Right.
What about these jet skis? I mean,
That
it was
was
like
awkward.
literally, that was a little awkward. But look, it was like, did it go to 3.5 hours? I can't remember,
Right.
but he made it go by quicker. That's all
He
I
did.
could really
He
say.
did. Yeah.
I couldn't believe how fast it felt to me while I was watching. We're already almost done.
Yeah.
And it's because of the way he ran the show, and that little theater stunt really brought the energy back for everybody.
It's when you start it up, when you start in that opening bit, that's what usually the way that these shows go, they put everything into that opening bit.
Right.
And then it just flatlines throughout the entire show because it's just like, okay, go, go, go. And now your next performer is blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He didn't do that. He was able to kind of still keep it going, keep a show, make it entertaining the whole way through. And I think get him for as long as you can.
And
I hope
didn't-
they do that. The only thing that has me a little concerned now, and I thoroughly enjoyed that show last night from start to finish, doesn't matter how long it was, it really did feel like it flew by, is that the ratings are down. And I just hope that there's no, reactionary response to that where they have to spice it up for whatever reason next year in a way that feels, I don't know, not so genuine or heavy-handed, because last night's ceremony felt really special to me, and like everything was kind of firing on all cylinders and it worked in a meaningful way. So I do hope that they recognize that, because I don't really know what the fix is to bringing up the ratings.
If I was to guess, to be honest with you, it goes back to the same conversation we just had about Del Toro. All of us watch because it's our job, it's our passion, that's what we want to do. Oscars are, the movies in general, the majority of movies nominated, the majority of the public did not see them, and they don't care about them.
Right.
Like, again, just to keep referencing people that my wife was able to, we have 2 kids now. She was able to watch a couple of movies. She watched three Billboards. She would have never watched that if I didn't have the screener for it. But a lot of these people, a lot of the movies nominated, some of the people, the regular movie going audience didn't see them. I think that what they should do, and not like best action scene and things like that, but what the Critics' Choice
Best
Awards,
kiss.
but best,
Here's your popcorn.
Best, comedy, best big movie, best, whatever the not big movie, but you know what I mean, like making it a little bit more because people. My daughter was watching last night, 6 years old, and she got excited when she heard Coco, she got excited when she heard Star Wars, and she got excited when she saw like Harry Potter in the montage. You should also market to the general audience and add more categories. That you can't just be this elitist thing for so long, 90 some odd years. It's an elitist.
Well, when they were
thing.
celebrating, films in general, that montage, they had a ton of different films that are broad across. The montage was across the board, and I feel like as the Oscars have gone on, specifically these last 10 years, they've got not elitist, but they've gotten a lot smaller as far as the focus, where it's a biopic. Or
Jimmy Kimmel joked about it last night. He's like, look at Black Panther. It's another movie that won't be nominated next year.
But I think that the tables are turning. We saw, like I said earlier, horror films dominated both. And I call Shape of Water a horror film. It's a fantasy romance, whatever you want to say. It's a horror film. It's got fish god in it. So it's like Get Out and Shape of Water.
You're right. The genre changed up a little bit,
and we're going to see that even more as a lot of films change and tastes change, and we settle into.
Get Out was the box office success, though.
That's the way to do it, though, where this change happens organically.
It's organically happening.
If you just turn around
Dump
and say, all right, let's like quick and easy, just find out some sort of award or some sort of a special recognition we can give to the highest grossing superhero movie.
Right.
That's not going to fix
who wants to
anything,
do
and
that?
it's not going to feel
that,
right.
That would be awful.
That kind of organic change is what I hope will ultimately lead to a wider net when it comes to what's nominated, and then that way will make the community even larger.
Right, but I will say they should have done this a long time ago. They should have put a comedy category out there because comedies are never recognized. They never get, there's nothing. It hasn't been for a very long time. Best comedic performance.
Right.
Comedic performances are hard to do. They're hard to do, even sometimes harder than dramatic roles, and they're never recognized. And I mean, I shouldn't say never recognized, but never recognized in their own specific category.
Well, I'll say that if they continue doing the best musical or a comedy in Golden Globes, that's just stupid.
That's
so
stupid.
they should just be separated.
Golden
Globes.
You can actually just separate it, but
Yeah.
I want to do a deep dive into the ratings because the ratings were 16% down from what they were last year, which was a 9-year low. I just think people digest the Oscars differently. I think people watch TV in general differently than they used to. And I don't know if the ratings measurement has caught up with how we were streaming it last night. I don't know if that gets factored in.
Right.
I need to do a deep dive into the ratings. I'll research, I'll put on the lab coat, and I'll get back to you guys. We got to wrap up here a little early because we're going to be doing our Collider Town Hall, which I'll tell you guys about in just 1 second. Real quick, though, I want to get everybody's take on another award that you thought stood out to you. Was it Roger Deakins winning for the first time? Was it Jordan Peele winning? Go.
Deakins, absolutely. He finally got it. He deserved it. Could have been body work, but he also, Blade Runner. Oh, well, from what I see, it looked gorgeous in the trailers.
Blade Runner is absolutely a fantastic film, and among that one and Hostels and the Florida Project, a lot of these films just didn't get any shine. I was very happy to see Blade Runner also win Best Special Effects.
Perri Nemiroff.
I hate to end on a negative note. I'm thrilled for Deakins. That VFX award should have gone to War for the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, if you're giving Lifetime Achievement Awards, we got 3 grade 8 movies and no statues to show for it. What a bummer that is.
Wasn't Deakins for cinematography?
Yeah.
And then, so in Planet of the
No,
Apes.
she's talking about a different award.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
totally
it's like
different
Blade
award.
Runner got
Oh,
cinematography,
you're okay with
but
that,
it
but you
also
said-
got VFX, and I think that after
Got it.
3 films, War
Understood what
should
you're
have
saying.
gotten.
Get
Got it,
your
got
head
it.
out of Deakins and focus
know,
on the
I know.
rest
Yeah,
of the
but
awards.
Blade Runner
And
deserved it.
congratulations to Coco winning Best Animated Feature and winning for Remember Me, pulling the upset against The Greatest Showman. Why? Because people are going to remember me a lot more than whatever that song was for The Greatest Showman. Or that just might be my personal affiliation. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Collider Movie Talk. And I'm going to remind you, coming up in about 20 minutes, we're going to do our first ever Collider Town Hall. There's been a whole lot of developments going on recently with Collider as per the Hollywood Reporter story that came out last week. We're going to be talking about everything that you guys want to hear. This show is going to be controlled by and large by you, the fan, watching. You can check it out on live stream. You can comment on YouTube. You can comment on Twitter. Write in your questions. What do you want to hear the brass, the head cheeses, the grand poobahs of Collider answer? You guys get to determine the majority of the flow, so go ahead and start letting us know right now. On behalf of Kristian Harloff, Jon Schnepp, and Perri Nemiroff, I am merely Mark Ellis. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Collider Movie Talk. We'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. PST. Hey everybody, Mark Ellis here. Thanks for watching this episode of Collider Movie Talk. You want to watch more? Then click up here, or you can click right here for more great content from Collider. And if you haven't subscribed to Collider Video, do so right now and share this vid with your friends. Thanks for watching.